This is the Impulsive Thinker Podcast, a show for high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. Together, we will inform and educate you about how to improve your self-awareness while developing systems, routines, and habits for conquering the entrepreneurial world. Here is your host, Andre Brisson.
Hey there, Andre Brisson here with the Impulsive Thinker for another short. This past Wednesday, I dedicated the day to focus, actually hyperfocus, on developing and finalizing a bunch of things for this podcast. And I woke up at 4:30 that day and tossed and turned until I woke up and started driving for work. And the reason I couldn't fall back to sleep and I was awake was I had a daunting task that day, and what I told myself was I had to get everything done. So the project now became monstrously big and I could not figure out where to start. And that's a challenge for a lot of ADHD entrepreneurs, is we all have these grand ideas and goals, and they're massive and we can do it. A lot of times we don't know where to start or how to start, and then we procrastinate and delay and have a hard time figuring out why we can't get it done or started. So what I ended up doing for that 2.5 hours, still tossing turns, well, not 2.5 hours, was a little less, but basically figuring out where I needed to start. What I ended up doing was I started chunking it down, and the first thing I was going to do is get to the office was write down what tasks need to be done or goals to finish this unruly, impossible get everything done today. And that's been a tough thing for me to work on over the last few years since my diagnosis, is how to stop thinking or believing I can get everything done, or I can't start until I get everything done in one shot. So I chunked it down, and I'm looking at it right now, and I made a list. It looks like there's about 15, 16 things on. And then the first thing I had to tell myself was I can't get all of this done. So I started to figure out what are the important ones to do first. And I put numbers beside them, the order I'm going to do them as I go. And if I don't get them all done, what I have done is I've got a plan for the upcoming days. And that provided a lot of clarity. But that hour and a half in bed created a lot of fear and confusion, not knowing where to start, and the drive into work. It's mind-boggling how something so simple as where to start and how to start can just derail us into more procrastination, and it affects your confidence in something you believe you want to do and you just can't get there, and you watch other people just doing it and going. A lot of our challenge too is very rarely we start at the beginning. We always kind of jump into the middle and deal with that, and then all of a sudden realize we need a lot of other stuff to do first. And it has a lot to do with pre-planning and listing out the projects. So now that I knew where to start, I was able to get into hyperfocus mode almost immediately. And then also saying, I got to reduce my ability to be distracted. So as I was distracted, started to think of other things, I have a whiteboard on my desk, and I just write those thoughts down, and then I can ignore it and go back. But as I felt I was going away from my original task, I always go back to my checklist and say, no, I need that. That's number 1. I can't go to number 4 right now because 1's not done, and I got to work down that. And of course, it took a lot longer than I expected to do my number 1 task, which actually was 7 aspects of it. But I got it done. Now, I'll tell you, it wasn't easy to try to stay on task and it wasn't easy to not follow these other random great idea and thoughts and futuristic stuff, but I needed to do this now in order for me to set the rest of the things up. And a lot of times I've discovered is that the stuff at the beginning, if we do it right, it sets the stage for all of it. And that's a key thing here, is just a simple list of tasks and breaking it down, not making it finish it all today. What I ended up doing was I said, I got to figure out the how and the why formulation and the purpose of listening. I need to figure out the format, the feel, interview and shows, listener profile, who I am. And then I need 4 quick filters, kind of like, no, that was number 4. See, I just jumped there. I need little quick filters and outline the expectations and our focus I want for guests and our guest hosts. Then I compiled that all into a document, and that helped really clear the focus and was able to get me going and get that done. That was a big hurdle. That was the biggest, I think, that unknown and how I wanted to structure all this was my biggest hurdle. So I would procrastinate by working on a lot of other menial stuff that comes down later, like what tech you're going to get. But the heart and soul of this podcast is, what do I want to do? So where to start is a massive challenge for ADHD entrepreneurs. It's because we like to jump into the middle of it and try to get it done quick rather than starting at the beginning. And ever since my diagnosis and me being aware and understanding how the brain works is, I've realized if I can just sit down and chunk it down to smaller bits and pieces and decide the order early, I can achieve that goal a lot quicker and with less stress and frustration. And it helps build my confidence, because I'll tell you one thing, at the end of that day, man, I had a lot of confidence, a lot more confidence than I did before to start this podcast and to develop tactical breakthroughs in helping other high-achieving ADHD entrepreneurs. So I challenge you to try and do that every morning. That's what I do, is I list out the 3 things I need to get done that day. And then when I get a new project, I actually sit down. I have a little mini clipboard of the project, and I list down what needs to be done. Then I put numbers beside it. So I challenge you to try and do that every time you got a project. Chunk it down immediately. Every day before you start work, choose the top 3 things you need to get done today and write those down in your journal or somewhere on a sticky note that you can see it, that'll help you focus back. Also, I'd like to hear how do you plan your project or your day? I'd be very curious to see how other systems you guys have developed unknowingly as being high-achieving entrepreneurs. And again, thanks again for listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Impulsive Thinker podcast. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion for the show, please visit theimpulsivethinker.com. The Impulsive Thinker podcast is produced by Tactical Breakthroughs and hosted by Andre Brisson. Remember, ADHD is only a part of you, not all of you.